So let's have a quick look at the shrink wrap constraint. So this is actually a constraint that you require another object for it to work. So I've just gone ahead and created a monkey head here. Now I'm going to add our constraint to the bone here. So I start with my target object, then I shift select our armature here, jump into pose mode and make sure that we have our owner bone active, Control Shift C, and then choose shrink wrap. And you can see it has jumped onto the surface over here. So let's take a look at our constraint settings over here. So the target is the Suzanne object, and the distance is going to be how far away from that object based on the settings. So we've got different modes here. The nearest surface point is going to jump to anywhere on the face, the closest face. The nearest vertex is going to do a similar thing, but it's only going to jump to the vertices. Now with the project, what it's going to do is it's going to project in whatever axis that you say. So here it says local space. You can choose from any one of these, but let's project from local space, but we want it to be the positive X. Let's change this one to positive X, and you can see now the head of the bone is going to snap to our surface over here. Now our project distance over here, if you hover over it, you'll get to see the tooltip. It says limit the distance used for the projection. So when it is 0, it means it's disabled, which means it's going to project forever. So if we say, let's change this to one to be 0.5, so it's going to allow us to move the bone freely, except if it gets within ½ meter of our surface, it's going to snap to it. So that's what that one does there. Let me just disable that. And these are the axes that it's working on. Now, when you enable project opposite, it's going to use the positive X and the negative X. It's at positive at the moment. Let's disable that and move it over here. You can see it has no effect, but if we enable this, because it's projecting in the negative X, boom, it's still going to stick here. So that's what that does. So what does this face culling do? Well, at the moment it is set to off, so it's not going to do anything. But if we read the tooltips on this one here, it says it's going to stop the vertices from projecting to a face on the target when facing towards or away. And this one will enable it to the front. So that means that there's going to be no projection when in front of the face. So let me just show you what that means. So when I have this enabled, I'm going to move it over here. It should be projecting and it's hitting the front of this face. But if I move it to the inside of the mesh, you'll see it starts to snap, and it's actually snapping to the back side of these ones here. It's going to disable the front snapping and only enable it on the back of faces. And this is going to do the opposite. It's going to disable on the back and only snap on the front. Let's just move this out of the way and show you. So it should hit here because it's snapping to the front. But if I move it to the inside of our object, it's not going to do anything because the positive X is hitting the back of these faces here. And those ones are culled, so it's not going to do any snapping. So that's what the face culling does. These are the different snapping modes. We can be on the surface, inside it, stay outside, outside but on the surface, or above the surface. To tell you the truth, I don't know the difference between some of these. They all seem very similar, but I usually use above the surface. I think that's enough of the project. The next one I want to show you is the tangent normal project. So it's going to do the same thing, but it's going to project from the object rather than projecting from our bone here. So let's reset everything here. So I'm snapping above the surface with the align to normal. It's going to orient our bone based on that axis. So with the default X, you can see the X axis is the one that's pointing away from our surface. But with something like this, you probably want positive Y. And you can see that the length of our bone, when we drag it around, is going to stick on our surface here. There we go. It's a pretty handy thing to be able to do. Although this is a pretty low poly model, so we can actually smooth this out. So let's add a subsurf. Let's smooth it out. And also with our shading, let's set that to smooth. So now when we drag it around, boom, you can see it's moving nice and smooth along our geometry here. So there we go. That is the shrink wrap constraint, which is not to be confused with the shrink wrap modifier. They do very similar things, but one is for bones.